Welcome to the part 2 of the Lab 6 video tutorial. So in this part, we will learn how to implement a FIFO memory using the FIFO generator IP. So basically we will be learning about how to use the FIFO generator IP for our purpose and customize it according to our needs, right? So the design details are given. So what I need to do, I need to create a FIFO memory having 16 memory locations of 4 bits each. That means the word that need to be stored is of 4 bits. Second, I need to perform both read and write operation from the FIFO, for which I will be using the two different buttons. Those are the push button which I will be using, right? Similarly, the data that needs to be passed, so I have to make a port, an input port of 4 bits through which I can pass the data for the read operation. Sorry, for the write operation. And for the read operation, the data should come out on the D output, right? And also I need to observe the different signals associated with the FIFO. So there are various signals which are associated with FIFO, such as full, almost full, empty, almost empty, data count, and everything. So FIFO, when I talk about FIFO in terms of software, so it's like a first in first out kind of a thing. So like here when I talk about the FIFO memory, so there can be different types of memory, as you have seen in RAM. RAM is a random access memory, but there are some non-random access memory as well. So FIFO, LIFO, all these different types of memories can also be made using this block, using the block RAM available onto the FPGA die. So as we saw that there are RAM blocks distributed all across the die. So those can be used to generate these kind of memory as well. So FIFO is one such kind of a memory. So the technique remains the same. Whatever comes first will get out of the memory first. So if you have write something first, it will be read first, right? So there is a particular order which is defined. So it's not actually a random access memory, but the access is pretty much defined. Whatever comes first will go out first. So let's see. So that's all about the FIFO. Now the question arises: why do I need such kind of thing? Like in the hardware designing, why do I need some FIFO memory kind of a thing? So what actually happens? So let me give you a very good example. So when you talk about an integrated circuit, the modern integrated circuit, in fact, containing billions of transistors. So there are different clock domains on the chip. So some circuitry will be functioning on different clock frequency, and other circuitry will be functioning at different clock frequency. Now let's say one clock domain is passing the circuitry on one clock domain is passing some data to the circuitry which is operating on different clock, right? So in that case, there is a mismatch between the frequency. Let's say one frequency is higher than the other, so the data coming from the higher frequency one, so it will be coming faster as absorbed by the second clock frequency domain. So in that case, I need to create a buffer, right? I need to create a buffer. So how can I implement that buffer? I can implement it using a FIFO memory. So the faster circuitry can put the data in the FIFO buffer, and the slower circuitry can take the data from the FIFO buffer. In that case, the synchronicity is also maintained, even if my clock domains are different. That means my circuitries are working on different clock frequencies. So this is a very classic example of FIFO memory usage. Now let's move forward and create a new project and see how to customize this IP and how to use this IP for our purpose, right? Now let's look. Yeah, so one thing that I need to focus about is in this design. So there are two push buttons, read and write, right? So my FIFO memory also needs a clock. So I need to generate a clock for the FIFO memory, right? So how will I be doing it? I will be doing it like the similar fashion in which I did in the FSM. So in FSM there were two push button, input 0 and input 1. So whenever one of the button was pushed, using the debound circuitry as well, I was creating a pulse. That is the clock pulse generator that I was using. So I will be using the same clock pulse generator here. So the clock pulse that will be going to the FIFO memory will be generated through the clock pulse generator, right? So till the clock pulse generator, everything remains the same as we did in the FSM, right? The only thing that will be changing is how to use this FIFO memory. So that will be focusing on. Now let's create a new project. So this design we will be testing on the hardware. Alright, so there will be many number of ports which will be needed in this design. So one is the clock of 125 megahertz coming from the board. Then there is a reset. Then there is data input which we will be giving to write into the FIFO memory. Alright. The next thing is the signals associated with the FIFO. So I think for the input, we only need these signals. If we need more signals, we will add it later. So now let's come to the output signal. So there is one signal that is full. This is an 1-bit output, and there is another signal empty. So we will look into the use of these signals, and we will understand this in detail how they are useful for the hardware perspective. Almost empty. Almost full. Okay, so yeah, almost full. Then we have data count. And finally the D out. Okay, a couple of signals for read and write. So these are the input which will be coming through the push buttons. So read input. Alright. So that's all for the signals. Okay, so that's fine. Let me transfer this on top. Okay, so these are the signal which I can anticipate right now. So if we need more signals, so we can create new ports at that time. So now next we need to do the clock. So the first thing is to make a clock of 200 hertz. For that, first I will be using the clock IP to generate a clock of 5 megahertz. Then I will be using the clock divider to convert it to the 200 hertz, right? So I will be using the same code which we use in the FSM module as well. Right? All right. So what I have done is I have added a clocking IP. I have instantiated that clocking IP, and using the 125 megahertz clock, I generated the 5 gigahertz clock. Then I added these two files from the lab 5 and lab 5 and lab 4 also we use these files. So this is the clock divider which we have been using. So I have added this clock divider, and I have also added the clock pulse generator module from the FSM labs. So in this thing, as you can see, I need to provide the read and write input to this input 0 and input 1. Okay. And the clock pulse that will be generated will be passed to the FIFO memory. So what actually will be happening is whenever you press either read or write, and the clock pulse will be generated, and that will at that particular clock pulse your function will be done. Like for example, I need to do a write operation, right? So for that, what I have to do, I will be setting some data values on the D input, and then I will be pressing the write button. So as soon as you press the write button, a clock pulse will be generated, and at that clock pulse, your data will be written to the FIFO memory. Similarly, for the write operation as well, you simply have to click the read button, and then your data will be put on the D out bus, right? Okay, so these things are done. So we have already did these things. So now let's look into the new part which we were talking about. Okay. So in the FIFO, this FIFO generator IP we will be using, right? So let's read the description of it. The FIFO generator is a parameterizable first in first out memory queue generator, right? So it's a FIFO memory generator. A different kind of FIFO can be generated from it. So let's look into it. All right. So again, there are different interface types. So AXI interface is there and native interface is there. So right now we don't need to take care about the AXI. So we will be putting only the native interface, right? The second thing is the FIFO implementation. So as you can see, there are multiple FIFO implementation, but for time being, you can ignore it, and we need to simply use this common clock block RAM. So again, we will be using the block RAM only to implement this FIFO. So on those green blocks, as I shown you, so on these green blocks only, these FIFO will be implemented, right? So this is a common block RAM on which we will be selecting. Rest of the things are fine. Next thing is the native ports again. So just keep this options as default. We don't need to go into details of this option. Like if you want to read about it, so what you can do is a proper documentation of every IP is present on the Xilinx website, or you can just Google the IP name and you will get the complete documentation of that IP that you can read into detail. For timing, we don't need those many details. So again, the write width is the width of the word that needs to be written. So we have the width as 4. Second is the depth. So I need to have the 16 memory locations, so I am using the 16. As you can see, as soon as you select this write width and write depth as 16 and 4, so the read width will obviously, it's quite intuitive that this needs to be the same. So as you can see, right now what signals I have for the FIFO write. So whenever I write into the FIFO, I need to check into this signal, the full signal. So if the full signal is high, that means my FIFO is completely high. So whatever written onto the FIFO will not be going onto the FIFO. The content which are already are there in the FIFO will not be disturbed, but there is no more scope of adding more content on the FIFO. So this full signal indicates it, right? Similarly, for the read operation, you cannot read from an empty FIFO. Once the FIFO is empty, you cannot read. So this is the signal indicating that your FIFO is empty now, right? So write enable and read enable. Like again, we can use either the write functionality, we can use the read functionality. So depending upon whether you are writing on the FIFO and whether you are reading from the FIFO, you have to provide a high signal. So that's an active high signal. So clock and this reset. So now let's look into the reset. So as you can see, the reset pin is there and reset pin is selected. And the reset type is synchronous reset. So the reset will be happening with the arrival of the clock and the full flag reset value. So what actually will be happening when you reset this, all your values will be reset into the 0. You can select it like whatever you want. You can put that value. Whenever you put a high logical signal on the reset pin, so your all the values will be getting these things, whatever you selected, right? Next is the status flag. So one is your full and the empty. Or I also want to show you the use of this also full and also empty. So I am selecting it. So the almost full and also empty indicates that like when it is an almost full, that simply means only one location is remaining, right? The full means no location is remaining and you cannot write more. Almost full means one location is remaining, you can only write one more thing. Right? Similarly for the almost empty flag is set high when there is only one data left in the FIFO. After that, the FIFO will go empty. All right. So now as I can see, I have full and almost full. Similarly for the read port, I have this all 4 signals, clock and reset as a data count. So I also need the data count. So this data count signal, which will be real time, will be giving me how many counts of data are there. So I also need this. That's fine. All right. Next is summary. That's fine. Okay. So now let's see. You can click on OK. so we have added the FIFO generator IP. Now next we need to instantiate it. Okay. So let's call it as IM4. So for the clock, we will be using the clock generated by the clock pulse generator, that is clock underscore pulse. For the reset, so yeah, I have added a port for the reset. DIN is there. For the write enable and the read enable, we need to pass the read and write. So whenever my write is high, so clock pulse will be generated. At the same time, my write will be high. So that is an indication for the FIFO that a write operation needs to be performed, and the whatever is on the DIN pins will be transferred to the FIFO. Right? Similarly, for the read, I need this read signal. This is a read enable. D out is fine. Almost empty. Okay, so we have not added the almost empty. So right. Now it's fine. It's fine. Data count is there, 3 down to 0 because 4-bit data is there. Sorry, total. Sorry. So there are total 16 memory locations. So the maximum data that can be here is can be covered using the 4 bits. So that's why the data count is of 4 bits. D out is of 4 bits because the width of the data that we have selected is of 4 bits. The D in is the data which we are providing using the VIO. So that is again is of 4 bits. Rest of the signals are of 1 bit. Okay. Okay. So the rest of the things looks good. We can save it. All right. Next, we need to create a VIO wrapper for it. So for the VIO wrapper, let's create one. I only need a clock signal here. So now let's see how many probes do I need for the VIO. So in the top FIFO, I need, so clock is there, no problem. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So total 10 probes of VIO I need, out of which there are 3 probes. So out of this should also be 3 down to 0. That's a mistake. So 3 probes I need, which are of 3 down to 0, out of which one is input probe. So that is the output. So that is the output probe of the VIO. This is the input port. So now let's add a VIO IP and instantiate it. Okay, so I need how many input probes? Let me look at it again. So whatever is the output, I need to supply it into the input probe of this VIO. So we have how many output? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So total 6 probes I need for the input probes of the VIO. Similarly, for the output probes, I need reset, I need read, I need to give read, I need to give write, and the D. So total 4 probes here. Right. So out of the inputs probes, I need 1 probe which is of 4-bit because this. Okay, so 2. In fact, 2 I need of 4 bits. So there are 2 output ports which are of 4 bits. One is data count, one is a D out. So those should be the input probe of the VIO. So I need two such probes, right? Similarly, for the output probe, I need one probe of 4-bit. The rest of the probes are needed of 1-bit. That's fine. All right. So we can. Okay, that's fine. Let's check it again. Okay, 2, 3. That's fine. We can click on OK now. Okay, next thing what I will do is I will instantiate the top module and the VIO IP in the VIO wrapper, right? All right, so I have instantiated this VIO and the top module inside. So this is the usual way in which we do. So I have connected the D out here to the 3 down to 0 port. Similarly, the data count to the 3 down to 0 port and the D into the output port of the VIO. It is again 3 down to 0. Similarly for the reset, read and write. And also I connected this to the top underscore FIFO module. Right, so that's fine. So one more thing we need to do before we go to the bitstream generation. So all right, so the next thing we need to do is I also need to add ILA. So we will be looking into the new features of ILA which we have not covered before. So I will be needing the ILA on the top module, not in the VIO underscore wrapper. Right. So this time I need an ILA with 10 probes. So out of that, I need 1, 2, 3 probes of 4 bits. Rest of them are of 1 bits. So let's search for ILA. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so this time let's select it 2048 as well. So we will look into how this thing changes if we use a different value of data depth, right? All right, rest of the things looks good. Total ports needed are 10. All right, so from 0 to 7, I need 3 ports of 4-bit. Right, and rest of the ports I need of 1 bit. So that's fine. I can click on OK. All right, so next we need to instantiate the ILA module, ILA IP in the FIFO, top underscore FIFO module, right? So let's do that. All right, so we have instantiated this ILA module. So this ILA IP and connected the clock to 125 megahertz clock. So this is the refreshing clock of the ILA IP. Similarly, the different probes I have connected accordingly. So for the 4-bit probe, D in, D out, and data count, and rest for the 1-bit probes are for the rest of the signals, right? So now I can save it. Next thing is to add the constraints file. So constraints file is the same, the which we are using till now. Okay, so we have added the constraints file. Next we need to do is we need to generate the bit stream. Right? Once we have generated the bit stream, then we look into how to perform the operations using the hardware. Right? So let's generate the bit stream. Alright, so bit string has been generated. Now let's open the hardware manager and program the device. Okay, so we need to program the device. Okay, so first let's look into the VIO. Let's add all the signals. Alright, now let's see how does it work. Okay, so first of all, I need to convert them into the toggle button. Delete, right, and yeah, rest of the things are fine. Okay, so now let's see how does it work. So right now, as you can see, the almost empty is high. Also, the empty is high because right now I don't have any data in it, right? I don't have any data in the FIFO. As you can see, the data count is also 0. Now let's first write some data into it. So now let's say I need to write 5. All right. So I have written 5. So I have set my data input D at the D input. I have set the value 5 in hexadecimal. Next, what I need to do is I need to press the right button, right? So once I press the once I press the right button, you can see that the data count has changed to 1. That means one data has been written, and the empty is 0, but almost empty is still 1. That signifies I have only one data item, right? That's what I said. So empty is when your FIFO is completely empty, and almost empty means that there is one data still remaining in it. All right, so now let's add one more data in it. Say 6. Okay, so let's write it. So as you can see, the data counts has increased to 2. So let's write 2, 3 more data. 7. 8. Alright. So now as I can see, so my data count is 4. That means I have written the 4 data onto the FIFO. Next, I need to read the data. So I have to make sure that the order in which I have written the data, I should get the data in the same order. That's the FIFO order, first in, first out. So when I press this button read, right, so you can see 5 comes onto the D output. So 5 is the first data we have written to the FIFO, right? Next, if I, and the data count have reduced to 3 because one data has came out of the FIFO. Similarly, 6 has been came out of the FIFO and 2 data has been is remaining. Similarly, as you can see, only one data is remaining, 7 is there. And the almost empty flag goes high. Empty is not high, almost empty flag goes high. Right? Next, we need to see if I do one more read from it, because there is still one data left. So if I do one more read, you can see almost empty as well as the empty flag is high, and 8 is on the data bus. Right? Now let's see about whether this the same functionality is happening for the full and almost full. Now let's keep the data as DIN, and we will do multiple writes on the from the same data. The fastest one, That's fine. Two. So as you can see, the data count is increasing. So it's in hex. So you can see when the data count reaches this F, so almost full is now set. That means you can only do one more, right, before the full gets high, right? So let's do that thing. And finally, this is the 16th data value I'm writing. So you can see the data count has come to 0 and your full signal is high. That means you cannot write any other data onto the FIFO. So that's all about the signals of the FIFO. How does it working? So I hope I'm able to explain how this whole thing is working. Now let's move on to the hardware, like ILA part of it. Right. Okay, so what I have done is I have done two reads from it because my data count was 0 after F, so it went to 0 because it's a 4-bit count. So if in the 4-bit, if I add one more bit, so definitely it will go to 0. That's what I'm seeing. That does not mean the data is data whatever it is in the FIFO is no data is remaining there. The 0 was indicating simply indicating that once it's a 4-bit number. If you add after F, it will definitely go to 0. But the data, whatever it is in the FIFO, will remain intact. That simply means whenever the full signal is high, that you cannot write any other data onto the FIFO. Whatever the data is in the FIFO is still remains the same. So I have done two read. So now my almost full is 0. Full is also 0. Now let's check. Go to the ILA part of it. Right. So okay, let's create a trigger. Yeah. So let me add a trigger here. Okay, so I'm adding a condition on the almost full. So whenever this almost full goes high, my trigger should get completed. Okay, so let's look into the two different features of it. So earlier what we were doing, we were adding the trigger and we were simply looking it for that particular instant of time. So what I can do, I can create multiple windows in it. So if you can see, like there is by default there is only one window. So whenever that trigger will happen at that particular time, you will get the values of all the things. Now next, what I need to do is I need to like I need some values before and after it. So I can create some windows in it, right? So let's say I created two windows. Also the data depth, as I see. So if you look at here, so total data depth is 2048. So this is the total number of samples will be there in that window. So let's first start with 1024. So as I write to 1024, okay, so okay, so this is the second window. So compare it's fine. Alright. So I have done this. Now let's create the trigger. So it's waiting. You can see these many samples are taken, so it's still waiting for that particular sample. So if I do one more read, so that's not an issue. The always underscore full will not go high. So I have to do a couple of writes. So the data count has increased to E. Now let's do one more thing. order. So when this data count goes high, so I can see my ILA have captured this event. So now you can see at this particular time my almost underscore full goes high. So right now there is, so just you can see there are two different windows. So earlier what used to happen is I used to have only this one trigger event at which this trigger was happening. So now by creating two windows, so I can, as I can see, after at 1000 I can get 1000 more samples, right? So this second window appeared here, so I have gotten 1000 more samples, right? So that's not exactly the 1000. So there were those are as we have set here the settings. So these are exactly the 1024 samples that we are getting. Now let's change it again. Right. Let's change it to three windows and see what's happening. Okay, now I will first do the read so that my almost underscore full goes 0. That's fine. Next, I will start the trigger. And I will do one more write. As soon as I have done one more write, the always underscore full goes high. And I can see that this was the trigger at which so I can see there are three windows right now. As you can see here. So from five, so the first here, so this was the first one. So before from 500 to 1000 I got some samples, and from 1000 to 1500 I got some samples, right? So the samples are defined accordingly. So when you define three windows, so Windows data depth, as you can see here, the 512 is the Windows data depth. That means as the trigger happened, before it I will be getting 512 samples. After this I will be getting 512 samples. So you can change this accordingly, but according to your need. So this is the maximum till you can go, right? So we learned about two different things. As one is the data depth, the second is the number of windows. So in the ILA, earlier what I was doing, I was simply using one window. So whenever the trigger used to happen, I used to get the different signal at that particular time instant. Now I need to check whether before that and after that, some samples before that and some samples after that. So how can I do that? I can select different number of windows for that, and I can select the different data depth. Using this data depth and window, I can check into those values as well, right? So I hope you understand this. It's both of this, like the working of FIFO using the VIO. So I have made it very clear because I have shown it very clearly. Also, for the ILA part, I try to explain you clearly like how what is this Windows and data depth, so that you can, or you can also explore different by changing this data depth, how this your window is changing and how many windows you can create and how you can interpret the result. So that's all for the part 2 of the lab, and that's complete our lab 6 video tutorial. Thank you very much.